Hi everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome back. We are going to be looking at our informational texts about Europe and Asia again. So before we begin with that, let's go ahead and find Europe and Asia on our map. So remember, Europe and Asia are two of our 7 continents. So our big essential question that we are working to answer is what makes the world fascinating? Remember, fascinating means really interesting. So we're trying to figure out what makes the world fascinating. And our question that we've been working towards is what interesting things can people do in Europe and Asia? So we're going to look at both of these books pretty quickly today. And I just want you to think about what are some things in these books that seem really interesting that people in Europe and Asia can do. All right, so we're going to first just real quick look at our 7 continents and we'll name them again. So we have North America. North America, that's where we live. Then we've got our South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. You may have noticed that Europe and Asia are actually connected. They're some of the only continents that are connected. So that's really neat. They're not the only continents that are connected, but they're some of the only. So Europe and Asia. I am so proud of you guys. I got so many awesome wonder questions sent to me. This is probably hard to read. I'm going to post a big picture of it as well. So many good questions. So we're going to read through some of them. And then as we read, we'll see if we can answer any of them or if we need to do some additional research. And again, we can leave these up for the duration of our module and we'll work through and see if we can answer them. So how many windows does the tallest building have? That was a question from Adam. So I think he was talking about in the Modern Marvels section, this super tall building in Asia. And he's asking, how many windows does it have? Great question, Adam. All right, Gabriella and Isla both asked a very similar question. Why do the people celebrating Oktoberfest have on the same thing? So that was in our Europe book, and we will see. Where do the king and queen of the United Kingdom live now? Great question, Gabby and Isla. Again, they were on the same page. How long has the Great Wall of China been there? So the Great Wall of China is in Asia, and Gabriella was wondering, how long has it been there? Karan had some terrific questions. Karan asked, how is rice grown? And what other foods do pandas eat? Tyla asked, what kinds of food do the people in Europe and Asia eat? A fantastic question, a delicious question, and I can't wait to talk more about that. What do the houses look like? Tyla also asked. How big are the castles? How do people climb Mount Everest? Isla asked that one. How do people climb Mount Everest? Great question, Isla. Why did they build the tower so tall? So we saw that super tall building. Troy Eric is wondering, why did they build it so tall? What is the bridge made of? Do any animals live by it? And how long is it? So that was Dominic and Anaya. They asked the same, very similar questions about that bridge. That was our modern marvel from Europe. So we will definitely do some more research to find out more about that bridge. What building is on the front cover? Ooh, great question, Zayden. And why were there no colors on some of the buildings? Another fantastic question, Logan. So as we go through, we're going to see if we can answer those questions. So first, we're going to look at our informational text about Asia, and we see on the front cover, this is a photo. This is not a drawing, this is a photo. The illustrator chose to use photos because that helps us to see what it's really like. So, for example, on page 20 of this book, there's a tiger. And imagine that you had never seen a picture of a tiger before. If you see it, then it's going to help you to understand what does a tiger look like, what is a tiger. So That's why sometimes using real pictures can be very helpful. It can help the reader imagine that they're there, and it can also help them to learn new things. So as we go through this book quickly today, we're going to highlight some of the new words that we may not have known. We're going to define them, and we're also going to look at the pictures. So let's see. Go past our table of contents. Welcome to Asia. Asia is the largest continent. It has more than 40 countries. So we saw that Great Wall of China. It does not tell us how long it's been there. So that answer is not in our text. That's a great wonder question. We're going to have to do some more research on it. So I will do that very soon. We could go on Epic to find that answer. Find a book with it. The largest pieces of land on Earth are continents. There are 7. Asia is the yellow continent on this map. So again, that picture, this one is a drawing, but that's helping us to understand how big is Asia and where is it. People of Asia. Oh, there's that heading that we talked about yesterday. Most of the world's people live in Asia. Some live in busy cities. Many people work in modern factories. Most of the world's computer parts are made in Asia. Again, if I'm reading too fast or you want to look at the pictures more closely, feel free to pause. Other people live in villages. They grow rice on farms. Most of the world's rice is from Asia. So to answer Karan's question about how rice is grown, we're going to have to do a little bit of additional research. Wild weather. See that heading at the top? Asia has monsoons. These are strong winds. In summer, monsoons bring heavy rains. Some parts of Asia have cold, snowy winters. Asia has lots of animals. Giant pandas live in Asia. Their favorite food is bamboo. So they eat a lot of bamboo, but we're going to have to see if they like to eat anything else. Bengal tigers live in Asia's forests. Tigers are good hunters and like to swim. Asia has wild places. Asia has forests. Some have many trees. Other forests grow bamboo plants. So these are some bamboo plants growing that maybe a panda will end up eating. Asia has deserts. The Gobi Desert is dry. Wind blows the sand and makes dunes. So what does this picture teach us about a desert? It teaches us that there's sand. I don't see any trees. I see some mountains in the background. I don't see any people or any houses, but I do see camels. So the illustration is helping us learn about the desert, because nowhere in the words in the text does it say the desert does not have many people living in it, or the desert has lots and lots of sand and mountains and camels. We look at the picture to find out more information. So what are sand dunes? So it says the Gobi Desert is dry. Wind blows the sand and makes dunes. So these little looking mountains, those are called sand dunes. They're little piles of sand. So if you don't know what a word means, you can also use your context clues and look at the illustration to see if you can figure that out. Mount Everest is in Asia. It is the tallest mountain on Earth. It is one of the many things that make Asia such a unique continent. So Mount Everest is windy and cold. Isla asked, how do people climb Mount Everest? That is a fantastic question. I'm going to look for a book that will teach us about that. So here it says modern marvels. So first we need to think about, what does modern mean? Modern means that something is new or it relates to the present. And a marvel is something or somebody that is really, really amazing. So a modern marvel is something new that is really amazing. So this building, that super tall building, must be really new. So what details can we learn about this building from the illustration? So it tells us it has 160 floors, but we can also just see in the illustration that there is a pool on the bottom. You might notice that It gets really pointy towards the top. It's kind of a triangle shape up towards the top. The buildings next to it look really small. Take some time to really look at the illustrations in your book because they can teach you more. All right, let's do the same thing looking at Europe. So to answer, we can answer this one question, what is on the front cover? This is the Eiffel Tower, and that is in Paris, France. And my kids actually learned about a little bit about the Eiffel Tower because we read about the Ferris wheel, and we read about how the Ferris wheel was invented for the World Fair in Chicago a super long time ago. And the reason that the inventor came up with the Ferris wheel was because at the World Fair previous to that, somebody had built the Eiffel Tower. And at the time, I believe it was the tallest structure in the world. So they wanted to come up with something even cooler. That's how they came up with the Ferris wheel. But the Eiffel Tower is still there today. So it was originally created for a World Fair like almost 200 years ago, I believe. All right, so we have our table of contents, and we're just going to look through it pretty quickly. So Europe is a continent, and there we see Europe yellow. You can see Asia right next to it. And it's a small continent, but it has many, many countries. So here is our country of Spain that we read about with Ferdinand yesterday. Let's see, there's lots of new words on this page that we're going to work to define. So, people of Europe. Each country has its own language, foods, and customs. So what is language? Language is the words that people put together to communicate their ideas. So it's not the same for everybody. There are many different languages all over the world. There are many different languages just in Baltimore that people speak. So language is the way that you communicate with your words. So we've talked about that a little bit in our communication text from last module. So each country in Europe has its own language. So foods and customs. What are customs? Customs are a way of doing something that's accepted by a group. So for example, the 4th of July is a really fun holiday here in the United States where we have barbecues and fireworks, and that's a United States custom. They don't really celebrate that anywhere else. So that's something that is only happens where we are, and that's just one of our customs. So Oktoberfest is a German custom. So we're going to see if we can figure out some more about Oktoberfest. I see some dancing. They look pretty happy. They're wearing very similar outfits like some of our friends pointed out. Maybe we can figure out why. Let's keep going. In the United Kingdom, people speak English. That's the language they speak. Primarily. There are still many, many other languages spoken in the United Kingdom. There is a royal family. So remember, this is the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, not the King and Queen. I'll see if I can get us a picture of the King and Queen of the United Kingdom. But great questions about if they still live in the castle. And we will have to do some more research to figure that out. In Italy, people speak Italian. There is a city in Italy where the streets are waterways. There are no cars. People walk on sidewalks or ride boats to go from place to place. So again, our focus today, looking at the illustrations or the photographs, what are we figuring out from this picture about what is a waterway that we maybe didn't know before? So I'm thinking that a waterway must be a way that people travel through the city by using boats instead of cars. So a waterway is full of water, and it's kind of like a highway, but it's called a waterway. So look at that photograph for another second and think about, how is this different from your city? See if you can answer that question. Ooh, places to see. There are many things to see in Europe, and people visit the beautiful parks and buildings in the cities. So your job today, I'm not going to finish this whole thing. If you want to look at the whole thing again, you can go back to the Europe video. But I want you to think about today, what is something, an interesting thing that people do in Europe or Asia that you learned? So think about what is something you learned that people can do in Europe or Asia that you think is interesting. So for example, we saw this picture of them skiing. Maybe you'll write that they go skiing in the Alps. Maybe you'll write that there are a lot of beautiful things in the cities. Think about something interesting that you've learned over the past few days about Europe or Asia, and go ahead and write a really nice sentence saying, I learned that people in, and then pick Europe or Asia, and then tell me what is something that people can do. I'm going to make another big chart with those kinds of things because tomorrow we are actually going to learn about writing, and we're going to learn about how to write an opinion piece, because you're going to get to pick, if you got to visit one of these continents, Europe or Asia, which one would you pick? That's what we're working towards. So today, pick something interesting from one of these books, and I will see y'all tomorrow to learn about some opinion writing. Have a great day, guys.